we get asked quite a bit how we handled fighting or arguing or disagreements in our family and between Jamie and myself as siblings. And we never really did fight because of the fact that we had struggles. You don't fight with your sister when she's lying in a hospital bed, and I wouldn't snatch a toy away from my brother when he's lying in a cast, you know. So because of our medical and learning difficulties, we have I don't want to say we're forced, but it was just natural for us to have a good relationship.
You were there to support and help each other, not do anything else but
there
that.
wasn't another option.
But I asked Missy and Jamie a little while ago, because that question comes up at almost every retreat, is what about sibling rivalry? You know, what have I done about sibling rivalry as a mother, and how do I manage it in the home educating thing? And then when they asked Missy a question, what about sibling rivalry, you know, and so now that's a bit of a difficult question for us because it's not something we've had to really deal with. But what we've done is we've dealt with the prevention of it. So I asked them after one of the retreats, I realise that you guys haven't had a fight, or you haven't grown up fighting with each other or arguing or disagreeing or having tiffs or anything like this. And I realise why, because we can put a lot of it down to the medical side. But however, I think of my childhood, and my brothers weren't allowed to fight with me. They weren't allowed to shove me or push me, or, you know what I mean? I grew up in a family where it wasn't permitted to have sibling rivalry in the home. It wasn't allowed. So I realised, hang on, is it all due to the health thing, or is it just something that's been instilled? And so we discussed it one evening. Remember, we said, if you guys didn't have medical conditions, you still would not have been allowed to have a dispute that was just breaking down. It would have been caught, and there again, that's time. You've got to be there, and that's the whole gift of home education. You can be there to catch that thing, not leave them, not be out shopping or doing your own thing or whatever it is, and leave the children at home with the maid. And there's this huge uncontrolled situation that happens because you've got two children at loggerheads with one another, and there's no loving, guiding parent there to ease the situation. And so it's a case of being right there. Now, if you're sitting doing a Bible study with your children and the one son shoves the other one off the chair, you're not going to just let them do that. You're going to correct that behaviour. You're going to say, that's not very kind. No, we don't do that. And you're in the Word, so you can go to the Word and say, this is what God says about it. And again, the whole key thing with Missy and Jamie, that one of Greg's and my key parenting tools, is it wasn't about, I've told you not to. It's God says. God has spoken, and He says in His Word that when there is disputes and arguing amongst you, there will be no peace. It will not go well with you. However, when you refrain from arguing and fighting and quarreling with one another, this is how it will go with you. This is what God says, guys. So let's obey. Let's do what He says and see if our household is full of blessings. Or let's see, if we don't obey, it will be full of strife. It's going to happen. That's His Word. You cannot alter it. It is the truth. You can test it as much as you like. You will find it to be the truth. You know? And so that's how we always parented the situation, regardless whether it was, Oh yes, it was Greg's folks that said the other day that when they would come to visit Missy in hospital, their memory of Missy in hospital is Jamie lying next to her. So they would come to visit Missy, but there was Jamie planted next to her, because like they were in hospital together, even though he was just, he was the visitor. Yeah.
He used to say he's going to hospital, remember?
Yeah. I'm going to hospital on Friday. Wow, what for? Going to have an infusion. As if it was his whole deal, We ought to have an infusion.
That's amazing.
Missy and I.
Special.
Yeah.
It's really special.
We don't really talk about it, but we have had loss in our family. And so we realize how important the time we have with each other is. And so Jamie and I were not going to waste any time with fighting and arguing and bickering and having cause for regret when we could just love each other and be a team and be supportive, because we knew we had gone through loss quite early on in our childhood. So we were aware of how mortal we are, basically, and how important each moment is. So I think that's another
You value your relationship and your sharing life together every day and every moment.
You must have said at least once a week, what if today was your last date together? Think about what your last conversation could be together, or it's quite a inspiring thought. Not to have your last conversation as an argument that you could regret for the rest of your life.
And I just want to go back to the sibling rivalry. The thing that I think is sad is if parents do not attend to it really seriously, what is happening to their child is let's say they have an anger problem and they just have an anger outburst, and it's not attended to, and their child isn't taken to the Word and given the help from the Word and from the Lord, then that is something that's going to grow in them, and they're going to have an increasingly bigger and bigger problem with anger. So it's so necessary to attend to it within the home environment and within the sibling relationship, so that they won't have a problem with anger in their adult life. They won't have a problem with anger with their own children and with their wife or their husband, or So I just think it's an opportunity in childhood to help them,
preparing for the next generation,
preparing them for adulthood. Yeah.